We can be overwhelmed by choices, especially this time of year. And when it's an obvious good or bad choice, it's easy. But when there are lots of options that could be good, then it becomes a struggle.
Studio 5 relationship coach Dr. Matt Townsend is going to help us walk through the process of how and why to choose. Okay, why are choices so hard? Oftentimes they're beneficial, right? You're choosing something that hopefully is going to benefit you or your life. Why is it such a challenge?
That should be easy.
You would think.
Well, I think part of it's because I think choices get harder the more we have to think. So the harder, the bigger the decisions become, or the bigger they are for us, the bigger impact they'll have, the more we end up thinking about them. And the more we think about them, the more worried we get. The more worried we get, the more potential loss there is. So choices are really easy if you never have to think about them. Like white shirt, blue shirt. I'll go with white. Tomorrow I'll do blue. That's kind of an easy choice. Right. But get married or not, harder choice. So part of it is what we invest in it. Part of it's the magnitude of what we could win or lose because of it. It's a big deal.
Do we make this harder for ourselves? Because we were just chatting during the commercial break. I don't really connect with the challenge of choice. I mean, to me, most choices, not always. I mean, get married or not get married. That's a big one. I know. But, you know, the day-to-day stuff, I don't dwell in or
some people just don't. And some people can just move along and they don't even necessarily see it as a choice. But one of the things I do want us to start doing is make sure we know that we're making choices, because we shouldn't be using languages like I have to do this. I have to go tonight and speak somewhere. Right. If I make it a choice, then it actually is something that I can say, you know what, this is costing me, it's benefiting me. I can actually start to weigh the cost. But I don't think you're crazy.
Oh, good.
I mean, I think you've got issues, but in a loving way. They're loving issues. No, you're perfect.
We want to walk through some examples. We'll give you some examples of people who have choices, and you tell us how we can learn from that. For example, at Christmas time especially, you have to have a choice. You're going to buy something. Maybe you see an infomercial on TV. It's like a limited time only. You got to purchase now. You got to do something now.
Slow down. First rule to all choice making is slow down. Most people that don't necessarily care about you making a great choice, they just want you to make their choice. Okay, we call those salespeople. Salespeople just want you to choose. So the way they help you choose more quickly or efficiently is they give you a short time frame. And they know that if we speed up, we're more likely to make mistakes. That's why when you're driving into your driveway, you tend to slow down. Right? When you have to pull the car in the garage, you tend to really slow down, because the slower we go, the better choices we make, the better vision we have. So one of the first rules of all decision making, if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, slow down, and meaning reframe the decision. I don't have to make it today. Now, what if I'm going to lose the deal?
Right, because there's an urgency there. Those salespeople are very good.
See, you know what you might have inside you, Brooke, is you easily know what is a good deal, or you know what's good for you. If you know what's good for you, you can make that decision quickly. If you don't quite know, then there's some other steps you've got to go down before you can make those decisions more efficiently.
All right, let's go to another scenario. Maybe you're a student in school and you're trying to decide a major. Maybe you're thinking of going back to school, something to do with your future. How would you weigh that out?
Well, now think of that. That's hard.
That's a big one.
Because what do I do? How do I know where to go? And you have to start thoroughly studying it out. So I had a guy come in, for example. He didn't know if he should go to a study abroad, but he actually kind of did. So as we sat down, he had a girlfriend waiting for him. As we sat down and started going down the list, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He just, all I did is ask him the right questions. But as we started going through the process of deciding and thoroughly going through it, what's it going to cost you socially, emotionally, financially, spiritually, mentally, what's it going to cost you? Once he started weighing the costs, he already knew, and he was actually telling me what he wanted to do. And I said, it sounds like you've already decided to go. And so is there something else going on that's making this a harder decision?
And is that usually the case? I mean, internally, do we usually know?
Yeah. Remember, 97% of our brain we don't even access. I mean, it's working constantly, but we don't have the access to it. That brain's already working on this decision, and sometimes it's called dissonance, when the subconscious brain doesn't jive with what your conscious brain is thinking. And when those two things don't jive, we have a quandary. We're confused. So this guy already had the answers in his subconscious brain. The problem with it is his girlfriend didn't like the idea, and he didn't know how quite to tell her that.
Right.
So just think it out.
What about a decision which is something that should be obviously beneficial to us? Maybe we're training for a marathon. Maybe we're going to go back to school and study something more. How can that be bad?
Now, this is a big deal, too, because then one of the rules is check your ego. One of the keys to this is our ego gets in the way a lot. I know people that have been training for Lodija, and they're out there working it, looking good. They're on a team, wearing the tight biking clothes, feeling good, never been more loved in their life. life, but their marriage is falling apart, their family is falling apart, their job's not being attended to. So if this is such a great decision, why is everything else important in their life falling apart? And as we started talking to this guy about that, one reason is because it was stroking his ego. His ego was in play. A lot of times we make decisions to buy the new phone, the new toy, the new car for our ego, not for our best decision.
You often sit here and associate the word ego with men.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to. I'm just saying that you usually say the men is tied. They're tied to their ego.
Yeah.
Does that apply to women too?
Oh my word!
Does ego drive our decisions too?
Knick knack, patty whack.
Oh my gosh!
How many women get caught up in the Christmas decorations? Got to be just right.
Okay.
Now, all you kids, shut your mouth. Shut it! Mama's doing the decorations, and they freak out. Hypothetically,
You're not real. Demonstrating anyone that you know.
I'm just saying, because there is one viewer out there that does this. But their ego's what's involved in Christmas.
Honey, I just tell you, honey, I didn't say anything about it, okay? Just
the competition that ties into ego.
So all of a sudden, they have to buy the wreath that their neighbor bought because their neighbor has one and I need one.
Okay.
So then all of a sudden, it's not about a choice anymore. It's about, well, it is. It's a choice to feed your ego instead of feeding your essence.
Gotcha.
And your essence is what brings peace.
Okay, another decision for you. This could be a really tough one. I mean, some of the other ones have been sort of easy on the surface.
Those are easier.
Maybe someone's got a decision of, should we refinance the house to start a new business? I mean, that could be a...
Oh, that's a huge one.
That's a deep one, too.
Well, and this is where you got to start to kind of look to the future, look to your passion, look to your principles, look to the things that are biggest in your life. I mean, there's a lot of things in life. The Native Americans, for example, they don't make a decision for today. They make a decision, well, how will this impact us 5 generations from now? So by projecting yourself into this bigger purpose, this bigger mission, and reconnecting to your life purpose, that all of a sudden kind of clears away some of this stuff. So some questions you can ask is, if I refinance my home, what will it mean to me in 5 years? What will it mean to me in 10 years? What will it mean to me in 15 years? So by projecting it to my bigger life purpose, which is usually more in the future. So what do I want people to say about my house payment when I die? Well, you might say, no one's going to talk about your house payment when you die. Well, then, you know what? Then maybe I ought not be getting deeper into a house payment.
Can I throw out a scenario that I hear a lot of girlfriends in my circles talk about?
Yeah, this is hypothetical.
Oh, yeah, of course. But this is a big one for a lot of women. Should I go back to work? Times are tough. Budgets are tight. Or should I, I value family. I value motherhood. Should I stay home and make that sacrifice for my kids?
Look at that. It's so interesting because a lot of us have an already gut reaction to that because, of course, you don't leave your children. You don't leave your children. They're gifts from heaven. Well, then sometimes you have to go work. My mom, a single mom, had to go work. She didn't have a choice to go work. It wasn't about a choice anymore. It was about feeding her children or not feeding her children. So the best way to guide that one is your conscience. So your conscience comes from the two root words, con, which means with, and science, which means knowledge. You have to follow your feelings. Your conscience is the deciding, it helps you decide based on what your values are, your knowledge of what's right and wrong for you. And everybody has a different state. So that's why I can't just ask my friends what I should do about my job, because my conscience might be telling me to go work, or my conscience might be telling me to stay home. I have to follow my conscience if I want to have peace. And the hard thing is a lot of us are following everyone else, even Matt Townsend, but there's not enough following me, by the way. But we follow me, or we follow you, or we follow Studio 5, but in reality, our peace will always come from me doing what I know is right. And sometimes what I know is right for me is not always, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a single mom get a job, not quite knowing why, but knowing it was important. And then something happens to her husband, and they need the job. And that little prompting that just told them to do this, or a little prompting that said, hey, I need to go visit the neighbors. By following our conscience, that is the #1 way to feel the peace that we want to feel. In the end, I found most choices, the key to it is, how do you feel about it in the end? And if you feel the peace, then you know you've made the decision more on your conscience.
I'm even gathering sometimes we have all the information. We have the information we need to make the decision.
It's all in
we just have to figure it all out.
So a little process helps.
Just in time for the holiday season, you got a little present for everybody.
I do. We have a class. It's free. It's up at the Davis Applied Technology Center this Thursday, December 13th. If you live up north, it's 7 p.m. Go to smartrelationshipsnow.com. This is a class for anybody in a relationship. We're going to be doing it about every other week. It's not always going to be free, but this first one on the 13th is free. In January, we'll be up in Davis every other week, teaching relationship skills.
Very cool. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, kids.
Thanks, Matt.